Today I'm joined by Ron Thiessen, the change evolutionist. Ron, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to have this conversation. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's my pleasure to be here, and I hope that this conversation that we have will be something that you can use in your practice and will benefit people.
Looking forward to it. Let's dive in. Can you share a little bit about your background with us and how you got started in the coaching space?
Sure. I am a psychologist by training, so I am certified in the province of Quebec in Canada. And what I found so often in my private practice, therapeutic practice, is I found very often people would come to me for therapy and they needed coaching, or they would come to me for coaching and they needed therapy. And so I know that the life coaching space has evolved over the last 10 or 15 years, and there's some sort of ambiguity about what coaching is. But for me, it's very intertwined with any work that I'm doing with people, particularly one-on-one, although I do it in organizations too. But one-on-one, the coaching is about accessing what they already have internally, that all they need to do is have an understanding of how to use what they already have. So that's what I found with coaching, that people already have a pretty good idea of what they need to do. Sometimes they haven't been able to express it in clear terms. And as we converse about it, as they hear themselves saying what they're thinking and how they're operating, they realize that their answers come. And for me, that's the most powerful way of coaching, is when they realize themselves what they need to do. And sometimes with just a little bit of redirection, or a little bit of asking good questions. Have you considered this? Have you ever thought about this? Did you ever think about it this way? And the answer there becomes like a revelation to them, and makes whatever they need to do much more doable, because it comes from internally. This is the thing that I found about change, because you can imagine, as a psychologist and even as a coach, but particularly my nameplate is outside my office door as psychologist. So you can imagine that people coming to me are almost always thinking that they need to, or trying to make some sort of change. And so when we talk about ways of changing, maybe I should just tell you, my philosophy of change is that most people, when they think about change, they think about it as a right-hand turn or an about turn. In other words, I need to do something drastic to make a change here. And what I found in my work with people over the years is that when you make that kind of a change, it's a drastic change, and within a year or so, you're going to tick back to business as usual. So if I check back with you in a year or so, you're going to be doing the same things you're doing today that you wanted to change. And I think that's the frustration about change. So I thought to myself, this was years ago, I thought, what if we changed the order of that? Instead of making a right-hand turn of change, what if we made an incremental change and just ticked over to that 90-degree change that they want to make? And because you're ticking over, you're making small incremental changes that have a far greater tendency to stick. And if that happens, then before they know it, they're at that right-hand turn, the thing that they always wanted to do, but seemed unable to do, because they're always trying to make this drastic change. And then I also found so many times people, they want to make a change, and so they determine, this is the change I'm going to make, but they didn't even investigate to find out if it's the change that they actually want, if they're going to be able to do it, does it even appeal to them? And even if it does appeal to them, is it going to get them the results they're looking for? And so to that end, I've really focused a lot of my attention in working with clients on urging them to do little experiments, that just experiment with the change first and see if that's really something that you want to do. How does it fit for you? How does it feel when you do that change? And if it doesn't fit, then scrap it and do something else. And I think that's made a real difference in terms of clients that I work with actually seeing themselves make changes that they've chronically been unable to do.
Yeah. So if I understand correctly, it's the small incremental change, but even before you start tackling that, It's understanding whether I want to make the change and where is this change coming from? Is it coming from myself? Maybe it's coming from an external pressure, or maybe there's an external expectation. So until I really embrace this change that I want to make and say yes to it internally, then I can go about working with you and making those small incremental changes. Is that
Right.
sound right?
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I love that. What got you interested into this space? Like, how did you get into the coaching, the psychology, being a psychologist?
Well, kind of in another life, I was working for a nonprofit organization, and we were running leadership development institutes in developing countries. And my area of where I organized things was on the African continent. And so I would be in different parts of Africa. We had in the African continent, we ran residential retreats, and so these people would come in. Our philosophy was, because the philosophy at the time in North America was train a leader in North America and then parachute them into a setting where they're needed. And our organization had a bit of a different approach. We said, what if we went into the situations there and trained leaders who were already leading? And it took a little while for us to get some exposure or notoriety in that area, but it started to work, and we started to get people that were coming from all different walks of life as leaders in these different countries in Africa. And because we would do residential retreats, what we would do is we would charge the participant a month's salary, a month's wages in the country that they came from. So in other words, it wasn't something to just sneeze at. You didn't just do it just because you felt like it. It was going to cost you something. At the same time, in most African countries, not all, but in most African countries, their currency is worthless outside their borders. So it was not a way to make money. We could certainly pay for some of the things that we did in the countries with the cash that came in, but we had to do a lot of fundraising in North America with that concept to say that this is what we're doing. And so when that kind of area, for different reasons, I faded out of that particular thing that I was doing. I was doing a lot of logistical stuff, plus I was doing some teaching and training, but we had a team of trainers that would go in. And so I stepped away from that. Maybe it's almost 40 years ago now. And but the itch was still there. And so in order for me to be able to do the kind of training that I was thinking about, I realized I needed far more education in North America. And so I enrolled at university. I started from scratch here at university in Montreal. And so I did my degree in I did a major in psychology and a major in human relations. And then I did my graduate degree at McGill in counseling psychology. And so that after 7 years of study, then I was able to set up my practice as a psychologist, and that opened many doors for me also because I was aware of the corporate context. I'd done a lot of work in organizations and with organizations. And so those doors started opening for me here in North America as well. And so I did a lot of work in organizations. And then as soon as I graduated from McGill, because I'd been very involved as a TA and things like that in my doing my degree at Concordia, I was asked to come and teach some courses at Concordia, which I did, and that started a whole thing. I've been teaching at Concordia for 17 years as a part-time faculty. So part-time faculty means we're not guaranteed contracts. We have to apply for them, etc. But I've had a steady teaching position there for the last 17 years. So now there's this wonderful combination of things that I do, because in my private practice I have therapy and coaching. In my work at university, I definitely have coaching, and in my work in organizations, most of it is coaching or organizational development, which often involves coaching the organization, coaching maybe the people in charge of the organization, coaching the teams in the organization. So all of this was exactly what I wanted to do. It just took me a while to build the education, to have the credibility to go in and say, I'm an expert in this area.
Sounds like you have a lot going on.
It's fun. It's fun. I love what I do.
So, what does your business look like for you today? Where are you focusing your energy on a day-to-day basis?
Actually, because of the constant reminding from my wife, I'm focusing on reducing, because I'm going to be 72 in January. I'm still going kind of full tilt. I did cut back on my private practice about 3 years ago. I closed one of my offices because I had two offices going. I closed one of my offices, and so I've narrowed down my one-on-one clientele. But I still do work in organizations, and that's been a little bit easier since COVID, because a lot of organizations bring you in now virtually instead of traveling. So that's good, because that's cut down on the travel. My university courses, I taught 4 courses this semester. We're just wrapping up. But I'm not teaching anything in the winter. So I give myself time. In winter, we're going to go on vacation. We'll be out of the country for a while, and doing some of those things that's on our bucket list, right? These are things we want to do, and we say, let's do them while we're strong and we're healthy, and we can travel, and we can, deal with the vagaries of travel, because travel's not like it used to be, right? It used to be so much fun and sort of luxurious, but now it's kind of a pain to get where you want to go, right? It's not guaranteed you're going to arrive on time. So all of these challenges that, this is the time of life to do it. So I'm actually reducing now and cutting back.
Sounds like you still have a lot on the plate, but good for you for trimming back and taking time off to explore and travel. Definitely helps, I think, refill the cup and come back charged. So, Ron, we know that the entrepreneurial journey is not without its challenges. Can you share a lesson that you've learned along the way? Like, share a challenge and one of the lessons. What did it teach you?
You must have a clear vision of what you want to do. If you don't have a vision, if you don't know what you're shooting at, if you don't know where you're trying to take this, the challenges and obstacles that you encounter will definitely floor you, and if slow you down at best and stop you at worst. So you really have to have an understanding of why you're doing what you're doing. And I do a lot of teaching one-on-one and in my university classes as well on personal mission. Understanding, I believe that every one of us has a reason for being here. And we need to discover what that is in order for us to experience the fullness of what life has to offer us. If we're just kind of stumbling around and whatever comes up or wherever we end up, that's where we'll try to shine. It's not near as effective as if you really understand why you're here and what kind of a purpose do you have. It took me many years to figure mine out. I would say I was in my late 40s before I figured out that my purpose in life, and I was able to articulate it, and it is to inspire, educate, and empower. There's people in organizations, etc. There's a few other words there, but those 3 words at the beginning are my key words: inspire, educate, and empower. Because I found out that with certain people that I'm dealing with, I am able to inspire them. Not everybody, but some people I'm able to inspire. And if I'm able to inspire them, then chances are they will allow me to teach them things that I know about. And if I can teach them things that I know about, I know that I can empower them to live those things. So those 3 words are very key to me in my understanding of what do I do and what are the steps that I take. So the way this works for me is that because of the positions that I hold, so I'm in private practice, I'm a professor at university, and I work in organizations. And because of those kind of the 3-pronged place that I can get impact, I have many requests to do many different things. And so the first thing when I get a request to do something or to appear somewhere, or, just like when you contacted me about the podcast, I run it through my internal grid. Will this allow me to inspire, educate, and or empower? And if the answer to that is no, then my answer is no. It doesn't matter how much money's involved. It doesn't matter who it would put me in touch with. It. None of that matters, because I'll explain in a second why that's important. If the answer is yes, it will allow me to inspire, educate, and or empower, maybe one of those three, or maybe all three of those. Then my answer can be yes, but now I have to figure out, does it fit in my schedule? Is it something that I really feel like I want to do? And will I be able to deliver what my client, the person that's asking me for this, is expecting from me? And so, once I make that calculation, then I can say yes, and I can say this is when it could happen. What happens if I say yes when it's not, when I run through my internal grid and the answer is no? If I say yes, there's a few things that happen. One is that I'm going to have to produce something that's not in my lane, and it's going to take me an enormous amount of energy to create a mediocre product. Because it's not my expertise. It's not where I'm good. So that energy that it takes is probably 5 times the energy it would take for me to create something that's in my lane. But not only that, that means then that I deliver a mediocre product to my client, to the person who asked me to do this. So, the outcome will be, oh yeah, that was okay, but it wasn't great. And it should be great. If I'm in my lane, it should be great. But the biggest thing for me, and I think the most important, is that if I take something that's not in my area of expertise, I am not only creating a mediocre product, but I am taking away from the person whose skill it is to do that. So then it's like I'm hogging things for myself. And that's not fair. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to my client. It's not fair to the person who could do that job with excellence. So for me, it's very important to understand my personal mission, and then to be able to order my life so that it falls in line with those principles that are the most important to me. And for sure, I have found in my life since my late 40s, the doors that have opened for me, the things that have come across my path, just phenomenal. I would never have thought of those kinds of things happening from those quarters, but because I've stuck to this principle, it obviously then creates time for me. If I don't take something that is not in my lane, it opens up time for me to take something that is in my lane, right? So I'm not so busy that I can't say yes when I should be saying yes.
I love that. That's a really powerful trifecta: inspire, educate, and empower. So that's your guiding principles. Those are the 3 pillars for you to find your lane and stay in your lane.
Right.
How do you help others do the same? Is it the same model? Obviously, your mission is to inspire, educate, and empower, but for someone else, how do they find their trifecta?
Well, I would never impose my mission statement on someone else, but I will give them tools to find their own. And, I have tools that I use with my clients. I have tools. I teach this at university too, and I show them how to, there's specific things that you can do. It's a reflective exercise. So you need to want to do it. You need to want to discover that. You would find that a lot in coaching, I'm sure, where that if the client is not reflective, or they don't take the time to really ask the pointed questions of themselves, they will never achieve the kinds of things that they could achieve if they were being reflective and answering the questions and saying, okay, this is what's real for me. So that's what I do. I encourage people to, and I have tools that I can give them that will help them hone in on finding out what is it that really makes me tick. What is it that just ignites me? When this happens, I just get, man, I can hardly hold myself in. And lots of people think, and I'm actually finding, I've been doing some informal research with my university students, asking them about this question, that people think, I'm finding that students in general today think that imagination is not something that you can make money with. Imagination is a hobby. for when you put your nose down and you to the grindstone and you figure out what kind of work you're going to do, it's based on what's available and not what's motivating you from here. And so talking about personal mission helps them identify, look what's coming out of here. And then how do I take what's coming out of here and translate that into what I'm going to do out here? And when I figure that out, then the cliches that we have, that we use, that are very powerful, but lots of people never find them. That is, if you can make your vocation your vacation, you'll be successful and happy. Or, you know, find something so that you never work a day in your life. These things they're sort of platitudes if you don't have a mission. You know, but you have to understand what is that thing inside me that would make my vocation my vacation. And, you know, when I'm dealing with university students, they're just thinking of where can I get a job when I get out of here? You know, I don't care what kind of job it is. And I really encourage them to start looking for work that speaks to your mission, because now you understand what your mission is. So be looking for the jobs, because if you will find those jobs, if you find anything, then you could be taking away from someone who would be just thrilled to have that job, and you're taking it away from them because you don't know what else to do. So it's like a domino effect. You know, if you really understand your personal mission, and now you're moving into that area, this is very powerful. I heard we had a guest speaker at the university, someone we brought in virtually from somewhere in the U.S. I think it was in New York, maybe something like that. This is a woman who had she had built a really good business refurbishing dormitories for universities, and she had quite a big business. And she was talking to our students. The topic was, what in the world do I do with this degree? And she said something so powerful, and I've never forgotten it, and I've told it to students over and over again. And I think this applies to anybody. She said, if you're looking for work, go through the want ads of the different organizations and descriptions of different jobs, and highlight the things you would really love to do. That create kind of a master list of things that you think you would really love to do. Then take that master list and go and find companies that are not hiring. Very important principle. Find companies that are not hiring. Get through the gatekeepers to find out who the decision maker is in that situation. So sometimes it can be the head of HR, sometimes it's going to be the owner or operator or whatever. But find out who the decision maker is. Get an appointment with that person. Sit down with them and say, these are the things I'm really passionate about. And in your company, I think I could fulfill some of these passions. Do you have, or could you create in your company a position that would meet these criteria? And she said, what happens is very powerful. Well, I've hired a lot of people in my life, and I'm telling you, if I had somebody that came to my office that gave me that approach and that presentation, I don't care what I would have to do. I'm not letting that person out of my sight until I get all the information that I need from them, because if I can't hire them right now, that's definitely somebody I want in my company. So as soon as there's an opening, or if I could, the challenge that they gave me, can you create a position in your company that would meet these criteria? I'm going to try. I'm definitely going to try, because that's a person then that would boost the productivity of my company through the roof. So, but having that kind of boldness, in order to have that kind of boldness to set that kind of an appointment, you have to know what you're doing. You have to know what makes you tick. And that's where the personal mission comes in.
I love that. Yeah. I think the challenge is also, like you said, taking the time, doing the reflection, and there's a level of courage that's required to go out and create something from nothing. And you don't know where that could lead, and it's so unknown and so unfamiliar, but you were rewarded with something that you can't possibly imagine had you not taken those steps. Exactly. But it's always a scary start to just start down that path to see where that could lead.
And that's where good coaching is so effective, right? If you can coach someone through that initial fear and just get them to take the action, wow, great things can happen, right?
For sure. If you could give your earlier self, one piece of advice, what would that be?
Not to take things so seriously. uh, and not to along in tune with that, not to push so hard on the timeline, because time is such an arbitrary thing. And if you just keep moving down the timeline, the resources that you need will be there when you need them. And so many times I find when they're getting so uptight is because they're wanting resources that they don't need at the moment, but they think that if I don't have them right now, I don't know if they'll be there when I need them. And this is what happened to me when in my later 40s, when I really understood what my mission was. It's like I got on a those pedestrian, not escalators, but the ones in the airport that you take one step and you gain three, right? And that's what I felt like happened to me personally, to my career, to everything that I was doing. It's like I picked up speed without any more effort. And I also found that what happened was that at the point where I needed resources, that would be like I was crossing an intersection where I needed resource. The resource was there, and I could pick it up without slowing down. But in my younger years, it was so much struggling to try to amass the resources first, because I know I'm going to need them here with this direction that I'm thinking about going. I'm going to need those resources, but I don't need them right now. But I thought I needed to have them in hand. I thought I needed to have them in my inventory. And I don't think life works that way. I think it is keep going, and if you know where you're going, the resources you need are going to be there when you need them.
It sounds like trusting yourself and trusting the path to unfold.
Right.
And not, it's like, I guess the analogy of driving in the dark. Your headlights only will show the next 100 or 200 feet in front of you, but you know that the road will continue and you're not going to fall off the edge of the world, so to speak.
Right.
And
Right.
so it's just trusting that, which is, I think, a challenge for a lot of people.
It's kind of the definition of faith, right? Faith. I know it's coming. I just don't know when or where.
Yes, absolutely. As we wrap up, and we look ahead, what's lighting you up right now? What are you really excited to create in the next phase?
I have found over the last 15 years or so that the message that burns in me, I am repeating it in so many different settings. I repeat it with my clients. I repeat it in my university classes. I repeat it when I'm working in organizations. I repeat it when I'm having conversations. So what's lighting me up right now, my daughter and I started a podcast about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. And I've been working with my daughter. It's just amazing. Just wow. We're like, we coordinate so well. But in the podcast, I'm trying to give a record of what I know. So now I'm trying to do other things to create courses, create things that will outlive me, so that whatever I've gained, whatever knowledge and wisdom I've gained over the years is not just lost because I'm gone. So that's really what's lighting me up now, to say I keep doing the same thing in no matter what setting I'm in. So it could be with 500 people, it could be with one person. It's the very same thing. So how can I multiply the effect of that? I can put it into a form that won't that doesn't need me to be there in order for it to be delivered.
So it sounds like you're building a legacy that will stand the test of time.
Well, that's what I'm hoping. It sounds a little bit, when I first started thinking about it, it sounded a bit arrogant, like, so what you think you have truths that other people don't have, but that's not it at all. It's the wisdom of the years and how you see things unfold. And if you could impart that to someone when they're younger in the journey than you are, and if they could catapult then past some of the obstacles that typically take people down, that would be amazing. And this has happened in my life so much because I read a lot and I see what people have passed on. And I don't listen to podcasts a lot, but I know a lot of people are listening to podcasts and getting amazing information. So that's probably something that I'll do a lot when I actually retire, because right now I don't seem to have the time. But it's an amazing way of saving things that are really important and that can really help people. So, I think it's a good goal.
I think so. I think it's a very worthy goal, definitely. Ron, how do you define success at this stage?
So this is not a cliche. I know many people have said it, but for me, success today is discretionary time. So it is, have you taken care of things so that you can, you don't have to be running on the treadmill all the time in order to produce what you need to produce in order to live. So, and in that way, it could be argued that in Western civilization, we have so many privileges, safety nets, different things that we can rely on. And I'm not really talking about that as much as I'm talking about, have you done the work to be able to relax a little bit? The last 3 years, I've been through a really deep awakening and understanding of the difference between productivity and busyness. There was a lot of times when I was very busy but not very productive, and productivity in itself can be a trap. It depends how you define it. But productivity is not. My challenge has been, especially as I'm cutting back on things, my challenge has been to not think of productivity and even success as being out here. It's in here. What's going on in here? And what's going on in here flows out. See, it impacts people. So if there's peace here, that impacts everybody in my environment, right? If there's turmoil here, if there's push, that impacts everybody in my environment. So, for me, the being productive while remaining at peace, huge, and that's. I'm learning that every day.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. And I think we all need to sort of learn that, is to sort of to drive from within and not really from the external cues that we get from our environment. Is really just
exactly.
Drive forward from within. I love that. Ron, thank you so much for sharing your story. I know people will take a lot away from this.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me this platform. It's wonderful. My
pleasure. Where can listeners connect with you online?
They can connect with me at thechangeevolutionist.com or ronthiessen.com. Either one will take you to the same website.
Perfect. We'll have those links in the show notes. Again, thanks so much for joining me on the Leadership Lab. It was so good to have you here.
Thanks for inviting me, and I really enjoyed being here too.
Thank you for spending your time with me today on the Leadership Lab podcast. My hope is that this conversation sparked a new perspective or reinforced something you already knew. Until next time, keep leading with curiosity and intention.